Hello, we are in a blizzard. Um, it's rough. It's snowing. I was out shoveling. That's another story. I have to go back out and shovel the front. I'm shoveling the back. I wanted to um, continue reading from Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. I want to read as many of these as I can because I will be displaced in about 30, not even 30 days. About 30 days. So I want to get as many of these videos in because I don't know if I'll be able to do them once I'm out there. I'll keep you updated as to what's going on with that. But until then, we're going to keep reading. And I want to read because I want to deal with slave women, black women, and some of the trials and tribulations. And some of these things that I'm reading about, even though it's the slave narrative, it's around today. The next day, I follow his remains to a humble grave beside that of my dear mother. There were those who knew my father's worth and respected his memory. My home now seemed more dreary than ever. The laugh of the little slave children sounded harsh and cruel. It was selfish to feel so about the joy of others. My brother moved about with a very grave face. I tried to comfort him by saying, "Take courage, Willie. Brighter days will come by and by." "You don't know anything about it, Linda," he replied. "We shall have to stay here all our days. We shall never be free. Remember, black people loved freedom?" I argued that we were growing older and stronger, and that perhaps we might, before long, be allowed to hire our own time, and then we could earn money to buy our freedom. William declared this was much easier to say than to do. Moreover, he did not intend to buy his freedom. We held daily controversies upon this subject. Little attention was paid to the slaves' meals in Dr. Flint's house. If they could catch a bit of food while it was going, well and good. I gave myself no trouble on that score, for on my various errands I passed my grandmother's house, where there was always something to spare for me. I was frequently threatened with punishment if I stopped there, and my grandmother, to avoid detaining me, often stood at the gate and with something for my breakfast or dinner. I was indebted to her for all my comforts, spiritual or temporal. It was her labor that supplied my scanty wardrobe. I have a vivid recollection of the linsey woolsey dress given me every winter by Miss Flint. How I hated it. It was one of the badges of slavery. While my grandmother was thus helping to support me from her hard earnings, the $300 she had lent her mistress were never repaid. When her mistress died, her son-in-law, Dr. Flint, was appointed executor. When grandmother applied to him for payment, he said the estate was insolvent and the law prohibited payment. It did not, however, prohibit him from retaining the silver candelabra which had been purchased with that money. I presume they will be handing down in the family from generation to generation. How do you get so broke you have to borrow money from your slave? So, it's terrible. My grandmother's mistress had always promised her that at her death, she would be free, and it was said that in her will she made good the promise. But when the estate was settled, Dr. Flint told the faithful old servant that under existing circumstances, it was necessary she should be sold. That's why they won't let us go, because this economy can't function without black slaves. And it's black slaves because they made it black slaves. On the appointed day, the customary advertisement was posted, proclaiming that there would be a public sale of Negroes, horses, etc. Dr. Flint called to tell my grandmother that he was unwilling to wound her feelings by putting her up at auction. I'm sorry, wound. Why did I say that? He was unable to wound her feelings by putting her up at auction, and that he would prefer to dispose of her at private sale. My grandmother saw through his hypocrisy. She understood very well that he was ashamed of the job. She was a very spirited woman, and if he was base enough to sell her when her mistress intended she should be free, she was determined to public she was determined the public should know it. She had for a long time supplied many families with crackers and preserves. Consequently, Aunt Marthy, as she was called, was generally known, and everybody who knew her respected her intelligence and good character. Her long and faithful service in the family was also well known, and the intention of her mistress to leave her free. When the day of sale came, she took her place among the chattels, and at the first call she sprang up upon the auction block. Many voices called out, "Shame! Shame! Who's going to sell you, Aunt Marthy? Don't stand there. That is no place for you." Without saying a word, she quietly awaited her fate. No one bid for her. At last, a feeble voice said, $50. It came from a maiden lady, 70 years old, the sister of my grandmother's deceased mistress. She had lived 40 years under the same roof with my grandmother. She knew how faithfully she had served her owners, and how cruelly she had been defrauded of her rights, and she resolved to protect her. The auctioneer waited for a high bid, but her wishes were respected. No one bid above her. She could neither read nor write, but when the bill of sale was made out, she signed it with a cross. But what consequence was that? When she had a big heart overflowing with human kindness, she gave the old servant her freedom. I mean, it's a shame that our freedom is based on their generosity, but it's good that some people had generosity. Um, we need about 30 million, we need about 30 to 40 million white Americans. No, I'm not going to say that. We need about 50% of the white Americans to have this kind of generosity right now. If you want to make the society better, if you want to keep it and let it descend into a hell on earth, which is what it's on its way to, well, which what we are in and spiraling into deeper and deeper, then we could keep going like we're going. But if you want your society to be functional and sane, you're going to need at least 50% of the white people to do what this woman did. Just give black people the resources they need to be free. And I don't care if it's money or if you just give us houses and apartments um, for in a subsidized rate, low income house. I don't care how you do it, but it has to be done. Or you're going to continue to get what you got. Basic. It's just very basic, very simple choice. I made the right choice on my side. I hope that other people will do that as we get through this year. Until then, take care of yourself, protect your mind, take care of your mind, take care of your body, and be safe out there. Please be safe. Oh, my heart goes out to the people in Texas. My mind goes out to them. I hope they stay safe and I hope they make it through as many as possible. Take care.